We're going to model this desk and we're going to go through it step by step. And this is going to be more of a beginner tutorial. Now, I'm not going to be using screencast keys because frankly, it breaks autosave and doesn't display everything you need to know anyway. So I'll try to mention all the buttons I'm using as I go through the video, and we're going to try not to use any paid add-ons as well, but I'll have them installed and then I'll mention them if I do use them, but we're going to get into it anyways. So we're going to use one seamless texture for this. We're going to try to make the whole thing. We're going to do the interiors as well, but these do have the metal rollers. So we're going to swap that and just use like a little wood piece there to give the impression that there's some functionality to it. And this is going to be more geared towards like game art, not necessarily like high fidelity visuals and product viz or whatever the case, right? So we're just going to get into it. Now, this is a program called PureRef. You can create mood boards, just copying images and pasting to it. Very easy. And what we're going to do is start with the desktop. So, or actually, before we even get to that, let's set up the material. Preferences, you're going to go to either extensions or add-ons. I think it's in add-ons by default. You're looking for Node Wrangler. You're going to enable this add-on. Okay, to make your life a lot easier when setting up PBR materials. So we can select the cube. We can go to shading. It should automatically switch into material preview, but if it doesn't, just click it. You can click new. We'll type wood here. And we'll grab this shader, click on it, and then hit Control-Shift-T with Node Wrangler. We'll get an open files menu. Go to Polyhaven, or in this case, this texture is from Ambient CG. All right. And you're going to download a wood material. And in this case, I got a 4K wood material that just looks like a desk. And so we're going to grab the base color and we're going to control click normal and roughness. And we'll be able to do principled BSDF texture setup or whatever. And you can see like this right here. It'll come in, sets everything up for you. Base color attached to base color, roughness to roughness, and normal to normal. Those are set to non-color. Just a side note, you'll need that if you ever set things up manually later on. If they're usually gray inputs like this, they're usually non-color. And the normal in this case is non-color as well. And so we'll get this set up here now. We got this material going. And that's all we need. Now we're going to go back to layout and I'm going to switch with Z to go to solid view. And as I'm working here, there's a couple navigation things that'll help you out if you're new to Blender. First, control middle mouse click is zoom in and out. So you can use mouse wheel too, of course, but shift and middle mouse panning. Orbiting is just middle mouse. And then, but if I'm orbiting, I'll hold down Alt and it'll jump me into side views like this. Okay. Or you can hold Alt and middle mouse click and gesture, and it will jump into type, right, left, top, every other view you want. Tilde key, view left, view right, view selected, you can orbit out of those. If it ever gets stuck and it says something like orthographic, it looks kind of weird, number pad 5 will turn orthographic on and off, or you can click this icon. Very simple stuff. And occasionally we're going to want to select through this object, so I'll be hitting Alt-Z quite regularly to toggle X-ray on and off, which is up here as well. And that little button, right? And I'll try to explain things as we go through this, but basically we want to work on the desktop first, so we're just going to get the proportions right. We're not doing this with dimensions. You could do that potentially, but for this video, we're just doing proportions. You'll see when I hit the tab menu, or when I hit tab, it doesn't go into edit mode. It brings up a pie menu. This is the machine tools add-on. You can hit control tab and you'll get a pie menu as well. You can go into edit mode, object mode, or whatever the case. So if you see me swapping with tab, it's usually going straight into edit mode with either vertex, face selection, or edge selection. I also have sculpt and stuff up here if I need it. So when we hit tab and we go into edit mode, what we'll see is that we do have vertex, edge, and face selections, 1, 2, 3 on the keyboard, right? All that fun stuff. And so you can be able to select different things. And our right-click menu changes. It's dynamic. So every time we switch to a different mode, it's going to update with different tools. All right. So you got to pay attention to this up here. And that'll help you out quite a bit. Now, of course, selecting things, just shift selecting will select multiples. Whatever we shift double tap on, you see how it highlights, that's an active element. We might actually end up using that. I don't know yet. but sometimes you can use the active element to align things, and then A to select everything, and double tapping A to deselect everything. Okay, so you'll be able to do that very fast now. Let's get this show on the road now. So this is going to be our desktop. Let's press in edit mode. We press S and Z. We'll flatten it out. In the middle, you see the origin point here. If we move that little white dot, it doesn't move. This happens in edit mode. We go back to object mode and we move, it actually moves. So this is actually our location, rotation, and scale, that little white dot in the middle. Hitting control period, you can actually kind of move it around and you'll see it updates over there in location. If we were to rotate it, it updates. If we scale it, it updates. So control period, back off. We're not going to be touching that hopefully, but if we need to reset it and change it, there's different ways of doing that. So we might do some of that. But we're going to go back into edit mode, select everything. We're going to press S to scale, right? And SZ or SX, XY. And sometimes you can do S Shift Z, Shift X, Shift Y. So that'll get you started on using the scale tool in that manner. So we're just going to press SX. We're going to bring it out like so. We're going to leave it there for now. This right here, it might be hard to tell because you guys have like the maybe the grid floor on or X and Y, and it looks something like this. You should see that red axis. We're going to be above that basically. We're going to get it up here. I'm going to just scale this out a little bit different so that we can get going and get it kind of where we need it anyways. All right, so we got that. And let's go ahead and press Shift A in object mode. If you're in edit mode and you hit Shift A, you'll create new objects with this object. Okay, so be careful. Shift A in edit or object mode. Create cube. Go into edit mode. Scale. Uniform scaling all the way down until we get kind of a square shape. Select by vertex. Alt Z. Press GZ. We're going to line these up by eye. We're not going to do this 100%. There is ways to do that. I'll mention it here actually real quick. But we're going to probably skip that. We're not going to do it on all of them. We're just going to move it real quick. If we want something to align perfectly, right? We can use different types of snapping. But one that's really useful is vertex snapping. You turn that on here. If you turn this on, it will always be on. If you don't, you can use control, right? So if I hit G, Z, and hold control, I can snap it to this vertex down here, right? If that was on, it would automatically do it, and holding control would disable the snapping. So if we leave it off, just use control to snap. And that gives you perfect alignment there for that one anyway. But that's not actually where we're going to go with this piece. We're going to press GZ again, hold control, and snap it up to that one there. Okay. Now this object, believe it or not, is supposed to be about the same size as this leg piece here as far as the width is concerned. So I'm going to actually scale it a little bit more, and we'll realign it real quick. So we can grab this other object with Alt Q. So we don't have to leave edit mode. We can switch between objects. Now I can hit GZ and hold control and fix that again real quick, right? You can also snap to this grid. We turn on grid snapping. You grab here, for example, and hit GZ and hold control, and we can snap to the grid. Okay. All right. So we'll get out of that now. Go back to object mode. We're going to pull this to this corner, and we're going to line it up by site. It's a usually a lot of desks and furniture and stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect, but in this case, it actually has to be a pretty high tolerance here, because this design, what is happening here, is that this corner has like a 90-degree cut going inwards. Now we could try to do something like booleans with this to do this, but we can also just use a bevel. So if we hit Control B and we bevel, you see this number is occurring. It might be hard to tell with that other object in the way, but it's doing something like this right now. Okay. It's doing like a chamfer. If we mouse wheel up, it's doing a bevel like this. Okay. We'll end up with 2 segments. We're going to do that over here again. We're going to start beveling. Also, you'll see me flicking on wireframe. I'm using a shortcut on my mouse for this. Okay. So wireframe on and off up there. You can right click that little checkbox and assign it to a shortcut if you want. All right. But if I Control B and I bevel and I mouse wheel up now, we get that little curve happening there. But we can change the profile shape and we can send it back the other way like this. So if I / and isolate, we'll see this number here. Okay. And so that's going to be really good. Now, a tip for you here with isolate. And a lot of Blender preferences for that matter, you can actually do this where you go to key map and you look for your key binding. And what this is actually called is called local view by name, or you can type in the shortcut there, right? But local view forward slash in the 3D view right here. It usually frames selected. That's a default feature. Turn it off. It makes things way more complicated to work with, in my opinion. And save your preferences if needed. So you can just save preferences there. I got it set up like this. So now get that 90-degree setup. We can forward slash. We don't move our view while doing that. It's pretty important, I think. Now, we got one going. We want all of those on all the corners. So what we're going to do is go into edit mode. Press A. We're going to go up here. We're going to symmetrize. And this little gizmo at the top right actually tells you what directions you need to go. Usually it has the bubbles where it'll say, it'll have like Y, that'll be the positive side, and the other side's the negative side, right? So you can do mesh, symmetrize, and we can choose our directions now. In my case, positive X is to the right. I'm going to do positive X to negative X, and it goes over there. We could do it again real quick. Hit A, symmetrize, and then we'll do Y, negative to positive Y. Okay? And that cuts our table up just like this very quickly. So we can alt-click on one of these here if we're in edge select. That's going to select a loop basically. You see it goes all the way around. Alt-shift click here, and we can control X to quickly dissolve things if needed. We don't really need those extra edges, so I'm just going to get rid of them for now. But we might come back to it, so keep that in mind. All right. But now we got to lay out this whole desk. And when we start looking at the design, we have these legs in every corner, of course. A lot of it's very cubic and it's just kind of put together in very specific ways. So if you've ever built furniture when you've bought something from, I don't know, IKEA or something like that, it's helpful to understand, how these things are constructed a little bit. You're looking for where things might be glued together or where they got screwed together or whatever the case. And a lot of times there's little seams in the wood. And so we'll be able to create the illusion of this actually looking correct with the grain of the wood or the wood pattern, and unwrapping it in ways that are very convincing that most people wouldn't notice in a video game anyways. So we'll just get into this. This leg, let's grab it, go to the modifier panel. Let's add a mirror modifier. And we're going to select with the eyedropper for mirror object. We're going to use that center one. And this is why that origin point's important. It's mirroring across that origin point. Okay. So we got this going on. Our mirror modifier now, we can actually mirror it on Y as well. We'll have this setup going. This is the modifier list add-on. All the same buttons here that I'm pressing are in the vanilla modifiers, but they're going to be just arranged slightly different. So you might have to expand some menus and find them and whatnot. They'll be there. So that's the main thing. Now, we have to figure out what we're going to be doing for the rest of this. And so we could create new pieces if we wanted to, but we could press Shift D and duplicate it and then right click. And that still creates the duplicate, but it's just in the same spot now, right? The right click, of course, is to like cancel and whatnot. We don't need a mirror modifier on this one, right? And believe it or not, this one, we're actually going to change the origin point real quick. You see it's at the bottom. We're going to set origin in object mode. You can set origin to geometry, and that'll go to the center of this object for the most part. If you had an irregular shape, it might not go quite to the center, but there's other options for that set origins up here as well. You can see there's surface and volume. You can play around with both of those to get different results. So now if I press R and I start rotating and I hold control, I could snap this out. I want this in the center here, right? And so when you press N, you can bring out the side panel. And this is where we have the Y direction, right? So you type in 0 if we want. It has the origin at the center. It should be fine, right? I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to scale this on Y. Okay. I think we're a little too thick with some of our pieces. We might be able to change this up here in just a moment by going into edit mode with all of them, which I think we might want to do sooner rather than later, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's press A. And actually, we'll see if this works with the mirror too. Let's go A into vertex selection. I'm going to grab all of these. Alt Z, grab all of them. If you don't Alt Z, it won't do it. I think I want to make it just a little bit longer, right? And a little bit taller, actually. Get a better proportion here. So it's closer matching to our references because we're gonna have a drawer in here. We still want quite a bit of space in here. Yeah. We can do something like that. And if we Alt Q over to this one, we can go right in and we can start symmetrizing this. Okay. So we can do that again real quick. In our case, it's going to be the positive X to negative X for the most part is what we need. Right. So we can change multiple objects at the same time if needed. That's all I'm trying to show there for the most part. This piece here, I'm going to duplicate, right click, go to the top, Alt Z, hit R, hold Control. Oh, you see the origin point moved on us. When you move things in edit mode, that happens. Okay. Set origin, to geometry, R, hold Control. We're going to place it at 0 on X. We're going to scale it out in edit mode. If you do scale it in object mode, you can do this, right? But take note, the scale here is changing. This is non-uniform scale, where it's 1, 1, and 3 now, right? This has problems sometimes when working with certain tools. So for example, if I bevel a corner here, it bevels very oddly, right? We're going to reset that profile shape. It's kind of elongated, where that's probably not the result you want. So these things, you need to press Control A and apply scale often. And when you do that, now when we bevel, you'll see it actually behaves more predictable. So that scale does matter, guys. And once we get into position, though, it's not going to be a deal. You just want all these lined up like so. And this one's going to go actually a little higher. Like that, right? This can be mirrored as well. I'm also going to set the origin real quick before I forget about it. We're going to mirror it. Drop the desk. Boom. You can leave that edge for now. We'll get rid of it again later. This piece here, we're going to take it back up again. We're going to Shift D and duplicate it. When to edit mode, we're going to scale it a little bit thicker. Right. This is not too important just yet. I think we'll be okay. Just leave it there like that for now, but it's going to need some adjustments for sure. By the looks of it, actually, it's going to be just scaled inwards a little bit. Something like this. Probably on both sides, if I had to take a guess. I can't see under the table, obviously, so it's a little bit challenging to tell what's going on here. But it's going to be something along these lines, right? And so you notice that I scaled it by let's just say 0.5. All right, we'll make it even. You can copy a value while hovering over it, hitting Control C, and then you can use it again later on. So if I took this one and hit Shift D and brought it up, right? And I wanted to scale it exactly the same, I could press S and X. I had some weird number. Maybe I would type in, or maybe I would copy and paste it, right? In our case, we just type it, but if we hit Control V, we'll paste it anyways. We can do that number, right? So now, if these need to be aligned for whatever reason, we can copy here with Z. We can go over here and Control V. So Control C and Control V, right? Now we can do that. We can go into edit mode. We have vertex snapping on maybe, and we can hit GZ, hold Control, boom. So we can actually start doing some pretty interesting alignment work here if you needed to, basically. Another thing you could try maybe is if you select this object, shift select this object, you can do transform, align. Oh, maybe it's not transform. Try this again. And no, it should be over there. Yeah, align objects is right there. Okay, so grab this one, shift select this one, transform, align objects. You'll see here, nothing is selected right now, but you can align on, say, like Z, right, or Y or X. And we can also hold shift and select multiples if we need it. That's another option. But in our case, it was Z. And you can see they're back together the way they should be. So that's good. We got this all going like this anyways. I have a suspicion that these are probably more flush on the inside than they are outside. Can't really tell because of the images. And this is where reference images are super useful. So it would actually work better for us if they were. I'm just going to move them manually real quick. I'm gonna Alt Q to this one. I'm gonna grab that face on this side. I'm gonna try to line it up to this vertex here. GY, hold control. You can see how these combos of keys, they start to work together basically. Helps you out. So I just want that little pushed in effect. That's really what I care about most. But when we create the drawers, we won't have some obnoxious gap in here that doesn't make sense. The main idea. All right. So with all that out of the way, what else can we do? We got to do the drawers, right? Yep. And so we could build them kind of the way they would be done in real life, but it's not necessarily required. Um, so what I'm going to do is just create a cube here, I think, first. And there might be a number of different ways you could actually approach this. So the way I'm doing it's not like the one all be all, we're just going to go for it and see what we end up with. A lot of times you got to kind of experiment with something in order to start to fully understand exactly what's going on. So we're going to be using that snapping along the way here, jumping in and out of face mode, edit mode, and all that fun stuff, right? So if I hit G and Y, bring this in. I don't have a vertex there to snap to. It's over there. So GY, hold control. And that one over there. We'll do this one here, GX, hold control. See how that works out? This one's going to be a G, Y, and it's actually going to be flush by the looks of it. So something like that. Now, I really want to get the shape of this drawer mostly correct. You can see, I think I'm still too short on a lot of stuff here. That's okay, but probably not ideal to have it kind of off. We'll try to get it more correct, I guess. Yeah. This needs to go down, obviously. These are going to go down and align to the drawer size. That, Alt Q to them, GZ, hold control, GZ, hold control. Get that going. And then now this is starting to make a little bit more sense, I think. So what we need is, I'm going to grab it all, go into edit mode. I want to pull these up even higher. I had a feeling I was too short. You can see all the origin points now are getting shifted around as well. Could be problematic. And we'll try to work with it and see what happens. We need a little bit more spacing in the middle. You can see when we do that, of course, the desk does not mirror over. We can actually, if we wanted to, we can mirror this as well with itself. So just a mirror modifier, click bisect. We don't have to keep doing symmetrize necessarily. We could do that in all axes perhaps. Just remember we're working on that front axis over there. Okay. Right. So we get this going. All right. Now, here's where the trick comes a little bit of a problem. We have to create these drawers. And they've run flush to this corner over here. So there's actually a really unique way you got to do this. And we go into edit mode here. We might select this side, for example, and we might just press X and delete these faces. Now you won't see it hollow like this. I have backface culling on. You'll see something like this, but you need to make sure that it's got these faces in the right direction. There's also the option of using the face orientation here. You can turn on. And that'll show you if they're backwards, if I had a backface colon on. See? Or off. But I just use backface colon. It's up to you. You can use either or. But you want to make sure they're in the right direction. And that would be Alt in. You can flip them. Okay? Or you can grab the whole thing, Alt in, and recalculate outside or inside as needed. So do that as needed. And because we did it this way now, what I can do is I can grab this corner here, or this face. I can press I and inset it. And when I hit B, it's going to turn the border off. So now we can do this number. All right. This is kind of what we want here because we want this drawer to be flush into this area. And we want this little bit of these faces here as well, right? So / again. This is going to become our front of our drawer. So we're going to press P, separate selection. Okay. We'll get that. Set origin to geometry real quick. We might need that. This one, it's already lost. You can see it's like way over there. We'll be okay. I don't think we need to use it on this one. The back face here, we don't really need. The bottom, we might. We do need like an interior space here. So what I'm going to do is press E, Y, and hold control and bring that in. Okay. Now, if we look at this without this, we don't want to see this for just a second. We can press H, going to hide it in the outliner, the eye icon, right? You can hide and unhide. We don't really need a backdrop in there because of this reason here, right? Like it's already got a piece of wood there. I ran it flush. So you can see how I was already thinking ahead a little bit for that. So that way we wouldn't end up with like weird interior space, right? And this one here, if we forward slash, we do have these open ends over here. We don't necessarily need them always in game objects, but I'm going to add them back so that when we do a bevel, everything behaves a little bit better later on. So we're just going to grab those, by the way, kind of skipping ahead. You can grab like one edge. If there's two parallel edges going to a single vertex out here, you can press F. Usually it will fill it. Otherwise, you can select multiples and you hit F. All right. You can do that as well. So in our case, we could have did the whole thing with the one edge because they're all parallel. They're all quads. You could do like F, 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 F all the way around. So really cool way of like filling those little borders like that if you need them. And that's it. So we got that going. Let's unhide this now. We're going to forward slash, go into edit mode, extrude with E, right? You'll see when we extrude, it actually goes in the, like it inverts the normals. One way it doesn't, one way it does. So this is something that's pretty common. This is why you press A, Alt N, recalculate outside, and you should be good to go with that one, right? So we got the main piece here going. Now all we got to do is create like that interior cutout of the drawer or whatever the case, right? And so we could borrow another piece of the mesh if we wanted to try to do that, or we could try to create new ones. It's really up to us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow an edge right here. And so these edges, you can actually just, when you select one, you can hit P and separate selection, and it creates a duplicate, okay? And so we go back to object mode, we select it, go back into edit mode with that edge. We can pull it in something like this, right? And so now we can actually press E and X, and we can extrude an edge as well. Should be able to extrude an edge. I don't know why it's not letting us. Okay, you got to be an edge selection, all right? For whatever reason that happened, but EX should be able to extrude it. We want it about the same depth here, probably, maybe a little bit thinner. And we can select the face, and now we can extrude that out. See? So we can do things like this all the time. Like we can just manually manipulate faces and go to town and make everything happen the way we want. I'm just going to go ahead and bring those back, and we might as well align them all the way to the back. I don't see why not. The front one here already aligns to the drawer, or it should anyways. So we should be good with that one, right? The way we did this, remember, let's hide this guy real quick so we can see what's going on. Press H. This one here, like we set the origin right off the bat, remember? That was so it would still have the same origin, so we could do a mirror. And if it didn't have the same origin, we could just pick the front of the drawer maybe, right? And so now we get this kind of set up here, which works out pretty well. And we're going to want one in the back as well. So we can duplicate it, maybe remove the mirror, set origin to geometry, rotate it. There's all kinds of different ways of doing this, but obviously you can also take this here. You see the, it has a location on x-axis here. You can copy it, paste it, boom, right? Go into edit mode, Alt Z it, GX hold control, snap to that interior, GX hold control, snap to that. Right, there you go. And so now we want the back side of this still though. That's kind of important. And if we just move it and snap it, it might work out just fine because snapping uses whatever's closest to your mouse, which I probably should have mentioned earlier, but it's whatever's close to your mouse is what it's trying to snap with usually. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, that's when you use that active element, right? So you use that active vertex, it'll help you snap where you need to go maybe. Or active object if you're in object mode in this case, which wouldn't work, but in edit mode it would. So then you can just use vertex snap it anyways, you know. But here's the thing. We got most of this going, guys. It's not really too far off from what we need. This drawer, I don't think I have a bottom on it. Yeah, so it's going to not be a very good drawer. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's just grab another edge and we will separate it. Select it. We're going to grab it and extrude it on Y all the way to the other side. Grab it all. It's a face. We can press E and extrude it up. A, Alt N, and flip. Or recalculate outside. We'll have the interior section now. It's going to be something like so. I think when we pull it out, though, this is preference, but I think when we pull it out, this doesn't really matter. But I feel like it would be nicer if this was all just a little thinner. Usually there's like a little a thin sheet of something in there. If it's not like a full solid wood desk. So I'm just gonna make it a little thinner. It has a little bit more interest, perhaps. That's optional. You don't have to do that. So, but yeah, we got the drawer for the most part going. You can see when I pulled it out, kind of shifted everything here. So I don't want to get into too many crazy complex things, but sometimes it's useful to have what's called an empty object so that you can move the empty and it moves everything else with it. That way you don't have to have all these issues with moving or selecting all of these things. So we're going to do that one here real quick where we'll do like, let's do cursor to selected right here, that origin point. So Shift S, cursor to selection, boom, we get it there. When we press Shift A and we create an object now, it will go to the cursor, right? It'll be plain axis empty here in this case. So we can use this to control all of this by parenting it. So we grab these ones, grab this one, holding Shift, grab this one. We grab this one last. That's now our active element, right? So we can hit Control P and we can parent object with keep transform. All right. So if we ever want to get a hold of this again, we can just press G and Y. We can move all of it. Okay. Usually you'll have what's called relationship lines, which you may see, which are right here. They're going to draw, well, they're not that distracting in this case, but a lot of times it's better to turn relationship lines off because if you're doing a very complex thing, they can get in the way and whatnot. But yeah, you can pretty much see how this is working out. It's not working out too bad. You can also try moving things to different collections, perhaps if you needed to. So the collections over here, we're working in one right now. But if we wanted to select all of this and say, press M and move to a new collection, we can move this to say drawer, right? If we wanted to. That'll give us a new collection over here. And this will not let you like hand select everything either, right? It's just parented to it. So if you ever have something like this, usually you can do different types of selections. So in our case, it's actually Shift G. I'm going through different menus here. But you can select parent or immediate children or whatever the case there. So Shift G is another selection menu that can be quite useful. But there's also Control L to do link and transfer data. So if you want to like link materials, or we might use that one here in a little bit. But there's also Shift L, which is another type of selection that's quite useful, right? Where you can select instances and things like that. So link duplicates, anyways. Overall, I'd say we're pretty good. Obviously, these ones back here, not so great. Once again, if you want to do everything on one side of the model and you want to mirror it, you can do that. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. So mirror modifiers here do work, but now we'll have to clean up those center lines later on, perhaps. So, and we also want to make sure that we bisect anything that crosses over itself. Otherwise, we end up with like double faces in the middle there. That's usually not ideal or what you want. So, this drawer has a cut in the front here. There's a couple different ways we can try to do this. First, if we got this front drawer selected and I press K, well, go into edit mode. If I press K and C and I hit A, I can start doing knife cuts. Now you're going to have to hit K, C, A, and 5 probably to get this kind of behavior. And if you want to see the angles like you see here, you have to press S twice or something like that. That's annoying, right? So what you want to do is go to key map, look up the knife tool. So it's going to be under mesh topology, knife topology tool, the K key. You can set angles to 5 immediately. If you want the angle measurements, you can set it there. Okay. And that's it. So you could do this setup like this and save your preferences. And then now every time you use the knife tool, like we hit KCA, you'll get the same behavior that I have. It's not an add-on. It's just a customization, right? A lot of times Blender is really good to customize. And this is the reason why right here. Because now I can tell the exact angles that I'm working at as well. So KCA it and do that first cut. It didn't give me a relative cut, which if I start on this edge and I hit A once, or if I hit, yeah, A once. When you get that red edge there, that's AC, A, no, twice. Okay. When you hit it twice, that's a relative cut. So it's going to be relative to that edge. That's why we get the angle measurement, right? So if I do 130 and I go over here and I want the same setup, I go to that next edge, it'll do another 130. You can't go over an edge with that though, just so you know. It doesn't work that way. So we can get the exact same angle if needed. By forward slash, when we hit K and C, K is cut through, so it cuts all the way through the mesh. So you have to be in an ortho view when doing this, like a side view. Okay. But we have that origin point in the center, so you already know what that means. We can go negative X to positive X with the symmetrize. All right. And so always lose it in the menu, positive X to negative X. Now it's all symmetrical. Boom. We can manually cut stuff like this in. This is something that you should practice and should learn. While it's very easy to do it with booleans and using box cutter add-on and all that fun stuff. Just learning how to do this is quite useful because we select these faces, we hit X, we delete faces, grab an edge, press F, 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 boom. You can dissolve that later if needed, boom. Control X for that, right? That's it. So we more or less have the right thing going on here, except, well, the actual object that we're creating, these are squared up. So we can use vertex snapping, square them back out. Not really a big deal. We can actually grab these two faces and press S and X, and we can adjust this, pull this down with G and Z. It's all flat, so it's very easy to move around and get it kind of into the right positions and right sizes here. We still have the wrong proportions for this area. I'm just going to tweak it, and then we'll pretty much be done with that area. Right? With that front section anyways. So the one thing I'd still wanted to work on actually was these at the inside of the drawer here. Let's hide this tabletop again. These ones. So this is mirrored, which is good, and it should be mirroring from this side. So if I cut over here, it does that. So what we're going to do is a loop cut. We're going to do it right towards the bottom, I think. So we're going to press in edit mode, Control R. It's loop cut and slide. We're going to bring it down one. We're going to make it a little bit thicker. We're just going to give the impression of some functionality here by pressing E and extruding out. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a taper because I think it'll look more pleasant when it's open, right? And that's just happening on the other side now. The only thing is that we want to make sure that it fits within this area. And if we wanted to make our drawer a little bit wider on the inside, we can certainly do that. But now we'll have to adjust everything else possibly, unless we're doing it this way. So we don't have to realign all of them. So select all of them, adjust, make sure we're just not clipping into another mesh somewhere, which I don't think we are over here. Wasn't real sure about that, but that's the mirrored side. So this is the side we're actually editing. You can press G and X and hold shift while moving. And that'll get you out to like that. So we're just eyeballing, once again, not 100% accurate, but now we have this setup. We can actually pull all that out. Looks like we got a gap still. Not sure how that occurred, actually. Let's figure that out, actually. I think it went off of this one and the origin point didn't change, right? Let's resample the front here and see if that's even lined up. That's lined up. So the bottom one here is not lined up. Origin points are off or something. So let's just do a mirror. And we'll go across the X and we'll bisect it. We'll do the same for the back as well. This can happen when your origin points are off, guys. This is just something that happens. Like you'll get used to it at some point. Why am I doing that? No, we want that. We want bisect. There you go. Now, there we go. So it's much closer. When we pull it out, it just creates the illusion of functionality. It's not really any more functional than it once was, but I think you get the idea. So if you move it though, you end up with that situation where you got to reset it back over here. You can't actually like do an animation to keyframe it opening and closing, so that way you can always just move it without having to worry about resetting it. We're not going to do that right now, but it's definitely possible and you could definitely do it. So For the most part, I think we're pretty good. Surprisingly, we're going to apply a lot of these mirrors and we're going to unwrap everything. We can do it kind of in batch, and there's different strategies or techniques for unwrapping as well. Um, we're probably going to end up using seams to get the maximum efficiency out of it, but you could definitely do like a lot of cube projects, which I'll go over real quick. You can pretty much unwrap the whole thing like pretty quick. So let's get into this now, right? I'm trying to make sure I'm going to apply the right things here. We're going to apply this one. So you can hit Control A as you hover over a modifier to apply it. I'm going to apply all of these, right? And actually, mm, no, we want to apply them. Sorry. You could do like an unwrap on one and then reuse the, like do the mirrors and stuff. But you get that center edge, which isn't actually the worst thing, but you would have to actually you would do the unwrap, you would mirror it, you would dissolve the edge, or you would apply the mirror, you would dissolve the edge, and then you'd unwrap it again. It's like a weird situation. I'm not doing that, okay? It's easy to do, I think, once you get used to it, but it's kind of bizarre, right? Something like that anyways. We're applying all this, and it's not gonna hurt us either. Like, it's actually good for what we're creating here, okay? Wanna make sure it's all applied and we're not looking at anything crazy. We still got all this. It should be still working, right? Okay. And with that all done now, this is gonna be doubled up as well. So if we grab all of this with the empty, right, we should be able to um, duplicate it and mirror it over there. But if I do it the way I was gonna do it anyways, it's gonna mirror the scale. I don't really wanna do that. So we might just leave this alone for now and unwrap it. Gotta do the desk too. Actual top. We'll unwrap it first and then we'll mirror it later so we can fix it. Okay? We just Control X that middle section. We're good there. All right, Z material preview. Now, only one object has a material right now. Press A, shift double tap the top, Control L, and we're going to link materials so they all get it. Okay. So now every one of them have a material. And if you just want to do quick dirty unwrapping, you can go into edit mode, press A, U, and you can do a cube projection. All right. Now, unfortunately, with this cube projection, you can see the grains in the wrong direction, right? We go to UV editing over here. We'll see this is what we're looking at. We can change the image if we want. It's not going to hurt us. Grains going up and down in this way, right? So you click that little um, UV editing. You have vertex, edge, face selection, and island selection. Now in Blender 4.5, you have to be in. You'll have island selection when you don't have UV sync on. Blender 5, they've enabled islands for UV sync, and I haven't really played around with it much to know if it's that great. UV sync used to break a lot of features with add-ons, so I didn't use it a whole lot. But it was one of those things that could also be very useful when trying to figure out what's going on with your unwrapping, because when it's on, and this is what's going to happen in Blender 5 by default, if you were to select a face, for example, and in the 3D view, it will select it as well. So you can see how that works out there, right? So it's going to select whatever you have selected. All right. But I'm not going to use that for this. I'm going to have to select everything with A over here to make sure that my UVs show up in 4.5 LTS, right? And now, so that's in the wrong direction. We just press R and we can rotate and hold control. And that's going to get us in the right direction. These are the long strips here, obviously. So these are going to also look correct. We do have those little short squares in here. They're not super important because we can't even see them. So that's okay. This one over here, for example, if I press U and Cube Project, it lays it out something like this, which is kind of a bizarre behavior, in my opinion. Not exactly sure why it does, but what it does. Should kind of lay them on top of each other, I would think, but that's what it does anyways. So you can see it's already going with the grain. And so this is what's kind of cool about this is that as we do this number, it's a little hard to see maybe, but we can cube project things, make sure it's going with the grain, and then that it's pretty much done, right? But you're going to have a lot of little extra seams everywhere, and not everything looks seamless necessarily. Like it may not look seamless. Some of these might have wrong scaling. There's something bizarre going on. Or I guess, oh, you know what? No, it's cube projecting this way because there's the other side over there. It's not a single object. So those are combined because we applied the mirrors. You could press P and separate by loose parts, right? And now there'll be two separate objects. This is kind of what I was looking for, where we can press U, cube project, and we get them stacking on top of each other. I just didn't, skip my brain there. But that's all right. We're good. We can just press Control J, join them back together. So you shift select them, Control J, go back into edit mode, U, cube project. This actually works pretty well for these pieces, although we might not have the right texel densities. So we'll get into that in a second. That actually works best with an add-on. So I'm going to Alt Q to these, hit U, cube project, see if they come in okay. And if they all work out and line up and whatnot, right? And they should for the most part, and shouldn't be too bad like this, right? Now, that's just how you do it with cube project. Like, it's kind of fast. Like, you can pretty much do it out the gate probably with every object, actually. You can probably go into edit mode with every object, press A, just press U, cube project, let it go to town, go to island selection, anything that's big. And you can see it's now hard to get a hold of some of our selections here, perhaps. But these bigger islands, generally speaking, are the ones you would have wanted to probably rotate out. So you can hit L on this one, maybe, and rotate it. So L, when you have multiple things like this, you can press L in edit mode to select multiples. You can hit Shift L to deselect, right? So you can do that as well. That's just something to mention there. So like this one was wrong, we need to rotate it. Boom. Now we can Control L to this one, or excuse me, L to this one, or Shift L to this one. And we can see it's correct, right? So we're okay. Just a little shortcut that you'll end up using at some point. Maybe not as important for this one. Yeah, so like this works. It's okay. It's not too crazy. It's not too great either. So what we can do a little bit different though is we can make islands with our UVs, which is quite useful. So let's grab this whole thing here, Control E, and we can do mark seams. And it's going to mark every edge as a seam first, right? This one you don't necessarily have to do this corner like this, but a lot of times these types of this type of furniture, it does do something like this, right? Where they have these 45-degree cuts out to the corner. In this case, this actual object cuts down like this. So I'm going to press K, C, grab that vertex and hit Z. You can use X, Y, and Z as well with the knife tool. And I'm going to space bar. We're going to get this result here. Okay. So I want this texture to kind of run down to this corner in a specific way. So you need an extra seam to support that. All right. And we won't use this one here for that. All right. That adds an additional triangle. It may be something you want to do or may not want to do. It's okay. I think we'll be fine with it. We'll get all that going like that. We can actually make these seamless as well by getting rid of those. And what you do is you work seams in a way where at the very back here, like that's going to be your main seam. All of this becomes seamless basically in that direction. This island will have seams around it, but when we end up doing this or finishing this out here, you'll see that it actually looks pretty nice with that seam, believe it or not. In our case, this island still needs to be unwrapped a different way. These ones here, we can also clear. And we could put one in the back here, or we could put one on the bottom. It's up to you. Judgment call. I'll do it at the top, I guess. Then this face here. I'm going to try to keep it as seamless as possible, basically. Mostly for just demo, so you guys can see what's going on here. But we don't do seams like we would if we are doing like high to low poly bakes where every sharp edge gets a seam. You don't have to do that necessarily. So watch what happens here with this one. If we do U and we're going to do a unwrap conformal, going to lay out something like this right out. And that's exactly what we want, that behavior. So it's going to look like there's a little cut here that doesn't exist, right? That's the only thing. You can actually use a seam sometimes for styling purposes, right? So get the HDRI rotation add-on and extensions. You can hold Alt and Control and right click and rotate an HDRI image lighting, which are, if you don't know about that, I guess it's up here in material preview. You can pick different ones. I'm using my own, or actually, I think I got that one from Marmoset, believe it or not. But we're gonna see it goes along the bottom too. Great. So it creates that illusion of that board there. Basically, you don't actually have to create a ton of new triangles for it necessarily. All is pointed out. And we could do that on all of these, right? We can go through here. We want all of this to be seamless, right? Let's just mark seams. Sometimes it's easier to mark everything as a seam and then go back and unmark seams. Other times it might be easier to do it other ways. So for example, let's clear all this. There's an add-on. You notice I have one add-on. This is text tools. There's one called UV Toolkit, and it's on extensions as well. This add-on, if you hit Shift F, it has a pie menu. So if you were to select something like a face, you can mark seams with that pie menu or clear them, or you can do border seams as well. So if I grab like this whole, like say this wasn't here now. Let's say I grab this loop by alt clicking on it with face select. So we alt click and I hit Shift F. I can do a border seam really fast and it marks all those edges, which is a really quick way of UV unwrapping. You can do this in Vanilla Blender by just doing a loop selection and then selecting loops, boundary loops, Control E, mark seams that way. That also works. So it's the same thing, but it's just a pie menu now, basically. So you see me using that accidentally, it's because I'm so used to using it, it's probably happened. But more or less, we don't have much to do here anyways. Like we just unwrap that whole thing. We have the one seam in a corner, so the whole thing will unwrap. And generally, this is not good practice if you're doing high to low poly bakes because you get one super long island. And a lot of times that kills off like texel density and other weird things. In our case, it doesn't matter because we can go outside of the 0 to 1 space where that texture actually exists. Like if this wasn't here, you can remove it, press X. And what we'll see is that at 0 to 1 space, usually high to low bakes, you have to be inside of it. In our case, we can go wherever we want because it's a seamless texture. So we can scale it up and down, change the sizes here of the texture pattern as much as we need to anyways, right? Which we're going to fiddle around with here later on. But for now, you just need them unwrapped where they kind of work correctly anyways. And they go with the grain basically, right? That's it. That's all we're going to do here. I just want to run through this real quick. Each one of these can be uniquely unwrapped too, so you don't see repetitious textures. Like you see how this one and this one, they have the same exact texture going on. That's because of the way the cube projects work. They do that number. You can actually, if you wanted to, you could just shift one. You don't even have to do anything special to it. Just shift it around. Now you have a different texture, right? And so we're going to probably end up doing a number of things like that as well. The main thing is I got to get working on this because we got a number of seams to add, right? And so all I'm going to do is we'll try doing these in batch. Let's go to solid view. These are all the leg pieces, right? And we'll shift, select, use the select box, shift. We got all those. We just mark them as seams, right? Then we can do a selection here. If this is a symmetrical object, which it is, but the origin point's not in the right spot, so we can right click, set origin to geometry. You'll see it goes to the center. And if it's a symmetrical object, you can also do something like this where you grab one edge. Maybe you can't, it's hard to see, but that back corner, inner corner edge, right? We select that one like that. You need to hit Control Space Bar. That's the one I'm trying to use here. Control Alt Space Bar will do full screen with nothing. And then Control Space Bar will keep some of it here. So basically what we're going to do is I want to do a selection again. We're going to do a select mirror. All right. And by default, it'll kind of do nothing for the most part, except switch the edge. Just click extend. All right. And then you can hold shift and you can select, in this case, Y. And we can get all of those. And then we can just tag it as a seam, right? We don't have to go manually do all that necessarily. Could be useful to you maybe at some point. You get rid of that one. So like this one, not real hard to do here with X-ray, by the way. You just get a hold of what you need to get a hold of, mark them, and then Alt Q around. It's the same process over and over again, basically. You're like, we need those outer edges, mark them, grab this one, And you can do a mirror select, which I have on a shortcut on my mouse again. And usually I stick with like X or something. Oh, these are separated now. No, they're not separated. What's going on here? Why is it not selecting the one? Oh, the origin point's off. Yeah. So that origin point actually influences that. That's why we changed it originally. Origin to geometry. So if I had that selected now, and then I do that mirror select, I should be able to go across X. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Put it on the bottom inside, maybe. That's fun. And so yeah, let's just keep going. I think we'll give up on that whole symmetry select though, and we'll just manually select. Otherwise, we're going to be there's no fast way around that issue right now because of the origin point, right? Except resetting the origins on a number of things. What is going on here? Why do I keep selecting the backside? Oh, it's not the backside. All right. Sometimes you got to isolate too. You see where that isolate feature comes into play? Like being able to just isolate without it moving around all crazy, like super useful. Also, the grid gets distracting. Um, in You will want to turn that on and off if needed. Sometimes it's disorienting for beginners with it off. For me, it's not such a big deal, but you guys might want to keep it on. Like it's too distracting, and you get tired of it and kind of over it, right? All right. So as we fly through this, the top one here, we can do exactly the same way. We only need one seam. We'll put it in this inside corner here. Okay. That's all you need. Not even that's like how fast it is. You make like these. If it was like a perfect cube, it'd be almost like a C shape or something like that. But um, like you can leave these attached too. Like you can, like if I want no seam here, I can leave that attached. That's what I'm trying to point out here. So this one's most likely to be seen. I can leave that one attached. That'll be seamless at least on one side. So on the front side, most likely to be viewed. This other one might be more viewed on the side. So there you go, right? You can see we can make those like that. And when those unwrap, press U, unwrap conformal, they stay attached like this and they stay seamless. So you're making little islands like this all over the place, is what you're doing. So when I unwrap this one, it does this number. Now, if I select all of this and unwrap all of it at the same time, this gives me an error. It means we missed something, right? So that's a possibility. The way I used to do this traditionally would be that I would scale everything to 0, right? So you can grab all of this with a S0, make it like so. And when we go into layout here, and we're in material preview, we need to just keep working with full screen. And maybe we'll hide this for now because we're not using it. But this is kind of the fun thing about this. Like when you set them all to 0, it flushes out the whole texture basically. So anytime you want to make something and unwrap it correctly, like unwrap conformal, you want to check that it's working. You know it's unwrapped now. You can move it out of the UV space. You're done. Okay, so the next one you do, unwrap conformal, make your adjustments. You move it somewhere where it doesn't overlap with that one, right? So this was a good practice to get into where you press U, unwrap conformal. And you can just move things around and try to make sure that you don't overlap them. That's the big thing, right? So you want to make sure they're all working. That's more of a proper UV kind of job there, basically. Like when you go through the whole process of working things out. You can do this as you're modeling sometimes, but a lot of times it's better just to do it later. You're going to make adjustments and it's going to keep constantly messing up your unwraps, basically. So we're towards the end on this one, obviously. See how that one's like um, continuous now? Like, that's probably what we want for that. But any that isn't done yet, like we'll know it, right? We can just see it clear as day now. Unwrap conformal. Bam. And I thought that one was already unwrapped, and then this one wasn't. Maybe I skipped it. H. Got to do the inside here, which we did not unwrap by the looks of it. Dissolve. Faces, and then that edge right there. Same can happen on these ones here. We can do the same thing. Actually, These ones are a little bit more unique, a little bit more special, perhaps. I'm going to press A, X, and limit dissolve, and type in 0.05. And what that did is, I don't know if you saw it, but it got rid of these guys. So those are gone. Control Shift and Z. It works really good on planar faces, really flat faces, planar faces. Because we might just want to do that on these, right? Where we go through and we mark seams there. Now, in some rare cases, like you'll have like more of a directional texture where it's not like wood can be kind of used, back and forth. But like certain like bricks and things, you might have like little drips and stains in them or something. You would want to make sure that it's lined up so that it's like up and down as well, so that each side of this works appropriately. And then you'd have to have something that covers up the seams on the top if it's like a brick wall or something like that. So it's something to think about. And in our case, not really a big deal. We could just tag all this just like we were with the other pieces. And you can see when we unwrap conformal, we'll get this set up, right? So these will be seamless right here, basically. Can't really tell, but yeah. Back here you can. Like that. Okay. Pretty sweet, pretty easy to do. Um /, I'm hitting all kinds of buttons now. Make sure everything's done real quick. Kind of fun having a notch in there like that. Also over there apparently. Didn't do this one yet. And usually they don't take anywhere near this long. I know just because I'm explaining everything, we're already at like an hour. This model without talking and once you know your tools, I mean, they go fast. Or as a beginner though, it's not really about being fast necessarily. It's about kind of practicing with the tools until you can become fast at it, right? With experience, you become fast. But if you've been modeling for a little while and you're curious how long something like this should be taking you, it really shouldn't be more than like 30 minutes. It's just like a couple cubes, it's unwrapping, it's really not that crazy. You could probably do it in 10, 15 or less even, if you really were rushing it, but it could be a very fast project for things like this. Now, because we have a hole in here, I'm not worried about like doing some kind of special texture work here to create the illusion of this thing being a hole, but certain low poly models, you might actually end up doing that. That'd be more of a high-low bake kind of situation, though, not what we're doing here. What we're doing is more or less a mid poly / low poly workflow. There are low poly models out there that exist in games that do exactly this, right? Not much different than this, and there are going to be definitely mid poly models that do something similar to this, but they usually have like material blends on them or whatever else might happen. So, or they might just use straight up textures like this, or they use some kind of other like crazy workflow. Um, where there's all kinds of bacon involved and whatnot. But um, this is common, guys. Like there are still studios that use this like quite regularly, where they're just using a seamless texture, making something real quick, throwing it out the door. Right? Do they always unwrap with the seams like that? Probably not. To be honest, a lot of them probably just cube project. If you cube project one side of this, the other side you can shift the UVs. You have unique looking on or unique textures on almost every aspect of this. It's just something to keep in mind. Now, it looks okay, but we still gotta duplicate this thing over, and if I delete that, we'll be okay. Okay, because we can actually, if we wanted to, let's hide the top again. We could take these and we can join them together. I'm gonna join it to the front here, right? We'll hit Control J. Now, the only thing with this is sometimes you have very close tolerances between vertices. You don't wanna accidentally merge these ones, okay? That's a bad thing. So if you ever press AM, merge by distance or merge at center or whatever the case, you don't want to do that. Um, we're going to add a bevel modifier to this, right? It's going to look like this. And when we do that, we want all of these to be separated still, even though it's combined, they're like sub objects now, right? We still want them separated enough that they will bevel each corner. Like, okay. Might seem like a waste of polygons or triangles if you're doing game models. But these LOD out very fast usually. Okay, so like you can create this as like a LOD like high like your closest model to the player will be LOD 0. LOD 1, you could just get rid of all the bevels if you wanted, like at 10 feet away or something from the player. You see where I'm going with that? A couple meters from them. And that's what's going to end up happening for these. All right. I'm not there yet because I wanted to duplicate this and I want to make sure I get in the right position too. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna do Shift S, cursor to selected. I think it's still in the right spot. I want this one here to have the same position. So I'm gonna right click, set origin to 3D cursor. Okay. Now this is kind of important to me because what I want to do right here, Alt H to bring back everything, is we could actually do it with a mirror. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be nothing wrong with that. We can mirror and we can sample the desktop again. That works. I mean, we could have done that. But if we wanted to do something a little bit different, like maybe we duplicated this and right click. I wanted to show you how we can mirror things. So like we take this object now, we control M, middle mouse click, and drag left or right. Or you can hit control M and hit X, Y, or Z. Like that's up to you. Okay. But you could have mirrored this over perhaps if needed. The drawer there doesn't work as well. Maybe this section, right? So we move it out. And then we control M, hit X, boom. And all we have to do, and what should happen here at least, is if we have the correct x-axis here, copy it, paste it, right? But we set it to negative. And so that's the trick because it's symmetrical. We can go negative with it, right? But our scale here is negative as well. So if we press Control A and apply scale, that inverts the normals usually. So in solid view, it'll be inverted, right? You have to flip them around. Pull in, flip, bam. So yeah, you could do either or here. Like a mirror would have worked as well. There's tons of different options for you. And so we can apply the mirror. We can grab this object over here. We don't necessarily have to separate it either, but I think it'd be better if we did. So separate the selection. The only downside of this setup, right, is we lost the origin point. Okay? So there's sometimes you want to do things like this. Sometimes there's times you don't. It's really up to you. And for me anyways, I think I'd rather just duplicate it over, make sure I got the right x-axis here and set it negative, right? And then if I need to, invert it or something, which I think we might have to on, right? It should technically still work here. I think it was symmetrical, right? And it should fit still. Yeah. All right. And you don't even have to mirror that one. But the textures are going to be repetitive and the players will possibly see this. A little dot in the middle on that one and that one. You can just shift these guys. You can take them, shift them around. Boom. No dot in the middle on that one. Maybe you don't like that one on this one. Move it a little. See? And then so all we got to do is make sure that we got everything applied here. You can click around, check them like that if you wanted to. Now we're going to select everything. You see all the islands are everywhere. Back in the day, you would have manually unwrapped all this, obviously, right? Like that's kind of an important thing. You still might have to do that today. But a lot of times you can kind of pack things back together using the built-in packer. And you might also want to average island scales, right? So if we grab all this, press A, average island scales, we'll get this. The packer, if we go to it, pack islands here, we got to select everything. You have to be careful with this one because what's going to happen here is it's going to rotate them possibly. And if you only want them to rotate 90 degrees, you would rotate cardinal. Now they've made some additional changes in here. So we have like axis align horizontal and vertical. You can do things like this as well. Okay. So if you want to try that and you pack and if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We get this kind of a setup here though. So they should all be kind of going in the same direction now and they should be okay. You'll have to play with that packer a little bit to get the hang of it. But there's a few little options in there that might help you out. Which is great, but you can see kind of how it packed, right? Like it's okay, but we have like all these crazy islands doing all kinds of different things. And some of them look like they're at different scales even, which one is this? I don't even know what face this is. Let's select here with UV sync, select by face. Let's click that one. Come over here, tilde key, view selected. Alt Z. Which one is this? The face in here. Usually you can find these things very easily, but it is somewhere in the drawers. It's the bottom of, oh, there it is. I think. Kind of hard to see that one. It's this one right here. I think, right? The bottom one there. Is that the one? Yeah, that's it. Okay, I guess weird shading issue. All right, so that's the one. It's on that. Those are big, actually. I didn't realize. Just didn't recognize it. I guess when looking at these islands, I didn't realize which part it was. All right, I thought it was these guys here for a second on the inside doing that. It is not. Okay. Anyways, the texel density now has been kind of shot. We packed it into that 0 to 1 space, right? If we want to just quickly change texel density, we can just by grabbing everything. It's a seamless texture. We just scale it up and we can change it to whatever we want to change it to here as far as what we think looks right, perhaps, right? But a lot of times you need to be a little bit more precise and a little bit more measured. And so this is where things get interesting. So I'm going to press N and I'm going to go to a add-on that you can get on extensions called Texel Density Checker. And this add-on, in our case, our texture size is a 4096. And if I want to set a very specific texture density, texel density, right? Texel density, tongue twister. Anyways, if I want to set it to 10.24 pixels a centimeter, or basically you want, a lot of games shoot for like 1024 pixels per meter. That's kind of like the gold standard right now. And you can just set it. Once you set your texture size, you set the size, boom. You can also set it like half size maybe, or whatever the case. You see, it just did the one island. I didn't realize we were doing just one apparently. Let's turn UV sync off. And there you go. Or 512, whatever the case. We might have to repack though. Or actually, it doesn't even matter if we repack this, even if they're overlapping like this, as long as it doesn't look bad in the model, right? As long as it's the right size. So yeah, that UV sync, by the way, not guaranteed, but more than likely in Blender 5, if you got the newer version, or is probably going to cause a lot of issues and errors. I don't think that's a good setting to have on by default, but a lot of guys tend to unwrap that way for some reason, and it can be useful with certain add-ons, perhaps, but it breaks a lot of these add-ons that I currently use. So I don't think like the features won't work out just quite the way you expect it to, such as the one we were just playing with there, pixel density checker. It wasn't setting, even though all of it was selected, you know, like we selected the one. You see, like, I want to just change this face. Yeah, it's okay. But no, it still works there. Okay. Maybe I'm just imagining things now. That happens sometimes. You get delusional working on 3D projects, right? It can happen to the best of us. But here's the thing. For the most part, guys, we're kind of done with this. We're going to spice it up just a little bit more, though. The way we've modeled this, it's meant to be more of a mid-poly model, right? And we can do that very easily. So let's just do it to the tabletop first. Here we go. Ready? We're going to do a bevel. And a lot of you probably didn't think this works, but you can bevel a model like this that's already unwrapped. The only trick is you can't use 2 segments. It doesn't usually work out as good, although you could try if you wanted to. But you can see when we shade this smooth, right-click, shade smooth, you're still going to have that seam in there. I think it's more noticeable that way. But when you use 1 segment, not very noticeable. Okay. It's kind of an interesting little thing there. So if I was to just select this one, set up the bevel, and then do a weighted normal modifier, and if we've modeled this correctly, all these edges should bevel fairly good. Okay. It won't be a major issue. Now, some desks obviously are going to be much more complicated in design. They're not so squared up and all that fun stuff. You're going to do more work, basically. I just want to mention this. So if I turn these off in edit mode real quick, you might have things like this occurring where you have an edge like this that pokes out, right? And then this gets beveled, and it needs to be a bigger bevel, all right? In that case, when you start doing things like that, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to want to use weighted bevels. Okay. It behaves just like angle for the most part, except you define which bevels have the ability to, or which edges can bevel actually. So that would be just by selecting edges, pressing in, and using a bevel weight of like 1. Because if you're doing it uniform, you just use a 1, right? And so only the edges marked with a weight will bevel now. All right. So you'll see that one bevels in there, while none of the other ones do. Okay. So that's bevel weights in a nutshell. And then you would go around and mark every edge that you need marked. Fun little tip. You should be able to hit Shift G and select by seam. And you can mark all those as bevel weights possibly. Or even just press A and mark everything as a bevel weight. And then go back and determine which ones you don't want, right? So you can get rid of those. That'll also work. Very fast way of doing that. So now if you had an edge that was sticking out this way, you'll see that you can actually do this. And maybe you want weights on this right here, if I can get a hold of them, but not right there. So you can do things like that perhaps, right? I don't think that's a good topo necessarily. It wasn't like a perfect bevel, but you can do things like that. So, and it tends to work out pretty well. You can shift things around and preserve the UVs as well. I just want to point this out, although we didn't really get into it with this project. The idea is that you can do a thing called, and we're going to switch this back to angle anyways. I'm not going to use the bevel weights like that. We're going to actually remove them too, so we don't need them. We can do we can shift things around while preserving the UVs. So a lot of times, if you move an edge or a face or whatever the case, start moving it around, you see it like distorts things, right? And it's going to really mess up your UVs. But if you turn on correct face attributes and use keep connected as well, more than likely, sometimes you can try it off. What keep connected does is it makes sure that the UV islands try to stay connected together, the vertices of them. If you don't check that, they will absolutely um, be torn apart and you'll have to do stitching and other weird stuff in the UV editor. Fix it, but turn it on, keep connected. If it works fine, use it, keep connected. Otherwise, rip them and turn it off. But we can now move this and you can see the texture will still distort slightly. That's just that's just how 3D models work. It happens in Maya and Max. It's all the same everywhere for the most part. But we can do things like this and preserve the UVs basically. And it's actually not just preserving them. It's actually like you're moving the UV itself at the same time while moving the model. So you end up extending the UV islands is what's happening. So when we look at this, we select this piece here, you can see this whole section was pulled out now. Originally it was like this, and we pull it out, boom, now it's like that, right? All right, so I just wanted to point that out. When you're using that, it's great. Turn it off when you're not, all right? Otherwise, you can really mess up your models potentially. Make sure you're very careful when trying to do that kind of work, right? But yeah, we got the bevel, and you can see the top's looking pretty nice. We got bevel, chamfer, technically with the one segment, and we do the weighted normal. We're not using any sharps on this. If you were, you could use sharps. And if you need face influence, you can use face influence. Sometimes you'll still get bad triangulation, even though you have like a pretty decent mesh, and you'll get bad shading. Just use face influence. You can apply a bevel, and you can select the largest faces, and a lot of times you can Alt-N set face strengths to strong. The equivalent of this, what we're going to see here, is that the weighted normal modifier, it has a weight of 50 by default. So Alt-N, set face strength, we got weak, medium, and strong, right? The weighted normal modifier, we have 0 is weak, 50 is medium, and 100 is strong. So basically you're setting them manually when you check face influence. So you can do different faces with different weight. If we bump that up to 100, that's face strength strong. Okay. That's all that is. And let me go ahead and just pull it out to the side here. And we'll do it a copy. I'm going to do a couple duplicates. I just want to shift S cursor back to world origin maybe. I just want to take one and remove the weighted normal. We'll just shade it smooth. One with the weighted normal. I'm going to convert these to meshes real quick. Right click and convert to mesh. We'll grab both of them, go into edit mode. And in edit mode, you have a preview here for split normals right there. Bump up size if you want. Okay. This is what controls our shading, right? So when we shade smooth, you see these ones here, they're kind of going out. These little, like this one in particular. As we move our mesh, this is how your shading's computed. Um, this one's going kind of up and out that direction. And so is this one, right? Like it's doing the same thing, those two. Over here, when you weight your normals at 100, they're doing this. Okay. So it's a little bit different. You get different shading results out of these two. You can see this looks like a nice, clean, sharp bevel. This is a little bit softer and more squishy, perhaps. But the shading across the surface here doesn't look quite as good. Okay. So that's where like a face influence of 100 is more useful because of these little weird artifacts like this. That's what you're looking for. I don't know if you can even see it, but there's a little tiny like shading artifact in there, right? That's what happens with shade smooth when you weight the normal at 50. Sometimes that artifact or artifacts like that will sometimes still show up slightly. That's when the 100% there or strong face strengths is most useful. When you apply a when you apply or you got weighted normals and you apply the chamfer, you can alt in, do that set face strength strong now, and you'll see it may not actually display it here because the weighted normal modifier doesn't usually show up in edit mode. Oh, there you go. You turn it on. Yeah. So if we set it weak, you see that moves, set it strong, boom. We set it back to weak, actually. Look what's happening here. We get that artifact for sure, right? Set it back to medium. It's mostly gone. You don't really see it, so it's okay. But if you do strong, it'll definitely be gone at that point. Yeah, so sometimes your models will freak out a little bit. Like when it was weak, it'll do weird stuff like that. It's probably face strengths. Unfortunately, if you can't set it, you can't always use 100 on the modifier, okay? That works with cubic shapes. When you have more organic type shapes or bevels, surfaces that are curved, you want to use 50 on those usually. It works out better. So it's a judgment call, right? Like you're going to have to figure out what settings to use when and where, but you have to apply those chamfers. That's all I'm pointing out here. It's a little bit complicated, I know, for beginners, but I think it's critical to understand like how your shading is actually working, how weighted normals work. Um, there's definitely more to it, obviously, but that's the big thing, right? So you can just get in here, make it happen. We're pretty much good to go. The last step here we got to do. First, I don't have any modifiers. That's good. So I can press A, select the top, press A, so it's the active element, and then now Control L, and we can copy modifiers. That's it. So they're all weighted now. They're all at 100. They're all using that same modifier stack basically right there. If you had other modifiers on these objects, it will still apply the new modifiers and it shouldn't replace the old ones, but it might. There's a possibility that happens. So kind of want to be prepped and ready for this to occur anyways. We can leave these as our own objects because obviously we could pull these in and out now. This doesn't necessarily need to be all split up forever, right? It'd be too much to select every time. So you can control jam together at some point more than likely and just get it going there. Looked like the UVs shifted on me. It was weird. Did not though. Probably the weighted normals or something. So ultimately, there you go. We have a relatively cheap desk that now we've spent an hour and 20 minutes on, but definitely like it can go together very fast usually. It doesn't have to be this slow. It's a lot of this with add-ons can be even faster, right? Like weighted normals, you don't do this stuff half the time, like bevels, for example. Like when you're using hard ops, box cutter, and things like that, you don't go through that manual process. It's just literally like, whoops, I hit the wrong key there. But you can literally like hit Q and bevel, right? You don't go select the bevel modifier or anything like that. You want to weight the normals, you press Q, hold Alt, and hit sharpen. Boom. Weighted. So little things like that, very quick. And there's other little fun things you can do as well, like box cutter, for example. You can do boolean cuts. Like if I want to cut. And boolean cuts you can do in vanilla Blender, obviously. We didn't use them, but if we want to do a boolean and mirror, which I guess we're getting some weird mirror action out of it. Why is that so weird? Should not be weird like that. Okay. Pressing 1 usually mirrors that way. I don't know why it mirrored all weird just a second ago, but it did. When I do that cut, I'm using a manifold boolean with box cutter. Hit Q, E, bring back the cutter, S and Z. All right. I just want to point this out real quick. You can do cuts like this, and unfortunately, if you're using manifold cuts, you got to shift it around a little bit more. The tolerances are a little off, but the main thing is that we can make cuts like this. It can be symmetrical. It has a mirror modifier on it. This now has a Boolean modifier. If I shift this up, that chamfer still takes effect. This edge here, for perhaps, apparently I cannot select through the mesh. This is a known issue in Blender, I think, that a lot of people have, and they just don't like it. Can't select because that's the mirrored side, apparently. There's nothing there to select. All right, I want to bevel this. If we wanted a little cutout like this, maybe we could do this. All right, and we can also unwrap it. So if we press U, and I'm just going to do a cube project for now. Or UV editor, it's sideways. That we can actually unwrap it, and because of the mirror, you can see the bevel, the mirror, the butterfly effect there. So if I apply that mirror and then I cube project it, respin it every time, because Blender should unwrap left to right by default, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to really do that or know how to do that apparently. A lot of times you got to spin them out 90 degrees. But yeah, you can see. So like this is still non-destructive, but it's unwrapped and it's working. I wanted to point that out for some of you guys that maybe have been modeling for a little while, that you can unwrap your cutters and you can use them in the stack still if they're simple enough, right? Like it's not really a big deal. You can see the bevel's not taking effect on it. Let's say the bevels were taking effect on it by accident. That would be because the angle amount's too low. It looks something like this. Just bump the angle amount up a little bit or add more bevel segments when you do a bevel like that. On the actual mesh, not the modifiers. So we end up in this situation. It's not too bad, right? And what happened to my drawers? Did I delete my drawers by accident? What did I do here, guys? I've got 2 collections going. Okay. This is what's going on. Yeah, so we didn't have to get rid of that. We'll leave that. Why not? When I'm hitting 1 or 2 or 3, it's switching collections, right? They've changed that behavior in the new version of Blender as well. I just turned them off because usually I hit 1 to hide cutters because I'm in 1 collection, not 2. Unless I need, if I am using more collections, it's not something so simple. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's the thing. You can just press, in our case, Shift 3. And or just, I think they changed, I don't know what they changed it to. I know they changed it in Blender 5, but I don't remember what it was. So hide them on the outliner then. I think it only works in this, the outliner now is what they said, I think, in the release video. You press 1, 2, or 3 over here, or Shift 1, 2, 3, and it'll hide and unhide. So you got to hover your mouse in this window to do that. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, if I remember correctly. Which is actually kind of cool. That's not a bad idea, I think, for beginners, because that hiding collections thing is a little bit of a problem, right? But anyways, yeah, we got this going, guys. We've made this setup here, and that's it. So now I have a desk and look at it, admire it. Control Alt, right click with that HDRI add-on, and your HDRIs around it. Look at it, and you've made it. Hopefully, it took a little while, probably, but you made it through this whole video following along as a beginner. Congrats, you've done very well. There's definitely more to learn. You'll pick up speed though off of some fundamentals like using the basics, knife tools, booleans, being able to align things with vertex snapping and using snapping in general, transforming, mirroring, all those kinds of common workflows have been around for a very long time. That's the standard of like poly modeling for the most part. A lot of this is what we just covered, is the basics of poly modeling and unwrapping for the most part. The only thing we didn't get into with the unwrap was like actually placing them within the 0 to 1 space and packing them manually, perhaps. I'll do another video on that sometime, perhaps, but it's kind of it's the same idea as what we just did, but then you go back and stick them all in that square. Annoying sometimes, but whatever the case, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll check you out in the next one, right?